What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.
At NBS, we believe in banking for life. For over 160 years, we've been a trusted banking provider for generations of locals like you. We know our clients personally and build long-term relationships with them, offering flexibility by giving our staff freedom to make quick decisions to put them first. Experience banking for life with NBS.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm Chris Butler and welcome back to Les Edwards. We're thrilled to bring you all things rugby in the top of the south and back after a couple of weeks rest, Les.
Yes,
something on the Gold Coast?
Well, yes, so cold over there though, but
was it?
A great time, great week there and good to be home.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, good timing too, because we're just about to get into the Mako season.
That's right.
Before we dive in, I want to give a big shout out to our venue sponsor, the Turf Hotel on Main Road, Stoke. Thank you to Stan and the team, and check out their Facebook page for all that's going on this weekend. In this episode, we'll cover the latest rounds of First 15 Rugby, the senior women's and senior men's Stuffed Tasman Trophy finals all happened while you're away, and actually second div have just completed.
Yeah, I was hoping
as
for
well,
that.
wouldn't it? And also lots happening with international rugby, and also we're going to start preempting what's happening with the Mako season coming up. It's our pleasure to welcome Steve Mitchell, who has just recently arrived as the new CEO of the Tasman Rugby Union. It's great to have you here at our podcast, Steve.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
How good is it to be back home in Upper Moutere?
Oh, it's absolutely lovely. 4 years living in suburbia and Invercargill, coming home to moving back to our little 5-acre farmlet with rural views and bird song. Lovely sunny weather. No, it's absolutely brilliant to be home.
Fantastic. Great to have you back, and we'll talk more about your time in Southland and also now heading the TRU chair. You've had some experience with them, but now you're running the ship, so I'm sure a lot to talk about, Steve.
Yeah, look, it's been a career goal to get to run an organisation, and I'm proud and privileged to actually be given this opportunity.
Fantastic. All right, Les, let's get into it. First 15 Rugby, and before our colleges took a break at the end of term 2, these are the standings after 7 rounds in the Premiership. Nelson College have won 7, 35 points in first position. They're doing really, really well. Marlborough Boys have won 4, lost 3, 19 points, sitting in 6th. And in the championship, Waimea combined have had a pretty good season, haven't they? Won 5, lost 1, drawn 1, 28 points, and sitting in 3rd position.
Yeah, so they're in 3rd position in the championship, which is really a pleasing result. And Steve, you were a big part of Waimea Combine's formation, so you must be particularly proud of how they're going.
Oh, look, it's great to see that it's still operating. It's giving kids from across the region that don't really get that opportunity to play First 15 rugby to come and play under the Waimea banner. It's it's certainly given an opportunity. There's been some great players come through. Mako springs to mind.
Yeah.
Every Waimea combined. So, the whole purpose of a union is to give kids opportunity to play at their chosen level, and Waimea Combined is definitely doing that for the outlying region.
So our naming rights sponsor for NBS Talk Nelson, Tony Cadigan, he was involved in Waimea College for a while. Is that right?
Correct.
Was that part of the combined setup as well, or did he just coach the first 15?
I think he coached the first 15. The actual formulation of Waimea Combined was way back. We pulled all the race funding and employed a rugby administrator in schools across the whole region. And then it was actually Julie Benjamin, who's now working at the union.
Oh.
And we got all the stakeholders together and just looking for, like I say, opportunities from kids from Murch, from Golden Bay, from Mott to be playing first 15 rugby at a higher level.
Well, fantastic.
And they certainly have continued to gather those players from those schools because, we know that Waimea Combined do take games over to Sports Park Motueka. So, so that those fans and family can get along and watch them. So it's great. And they're in 3rd spot, and we hope that they continue to get some wins.
Well, MBS, a big, proud sponsor of the Mako, so we'll have to get Tony in and talk about those days. Round 8, how are they lining up, Les?
Okay, so we got Marlborough Boys College hosting Selwyn Combined, That's on Friday at 1:30 p.m. Nelson College are away to Timaru Boys High School, playing on Saturday at 11 a.m. And Waimea Combined are also away. They're playing Christchurch Boys High School, 2nd 15 on Saturday. So all three teams are away, bit of a shame, but there you go. And I think that when you look at it, there's every chance that, Waimea Combined will have to do it tough against Christchurch Boys High. They'll have to dig deep, but they can do that. And the other two colleges should come home with a win also.
Fantastic. Look forward to that. Senior Men's Tasman Trophy. And, well, they finally did it.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant.
So Kahurangi 20 over Central 12, first Tasman Trophy victory for Kahurangi. I remember the days when they first joined and, they got their first win. So, haven't they done well?
I think so. I believe it's been 10 years since their formulation, and they struggled early on, but they've obviously recruited well and coached well. And great to see a team from both sides of the hill in the final, and a very appropriate final. It was well contested. It was a great game.
Yeah, so this was their fourth final, so really due a win. And I'm so pleased for, Coach Bruiser Smith, who we've had on the show a couple of times, and some stalwarts like Willis Scott and Kane McLeod and Stephen Hughes. Some of these guys have been running around forever, Mikey Wells. For them to finally get the trophy is awesome. And well played by Kahurangi. Central put on a good show too, didn't they? It's not like they were easy beats in this one. They fought right to the end.
Yeah, well, they'd won the previous two. So
yeah.
And some great photos of the stand, absolutely packed, and then everyone on their feet when the final whistle went. So a great atmosphere.
Oh, it's a very proud thing for the two clubs that create the Kahurangi team, Huia and Rewaka. And their volunteers who drive those clubs. Just a big day for the whole township.
And did you happen to see, I think it was last night on the Olympic Games sports shorts, they had Andrew Newsub, and I can't remember the name of his counterpart, also from Rewaka.
Reese Pori Lane.
And just said, we're from Rewaka, to the international press, So they'll be soon looking that up, and they will see that Kahurangi are the current Stuff Tasman Trophy winners. So congratulations to them. Senior Women's Tasman Trophy and another final, and the green machine rolls on.
Yeah, I wear green today in honour of our ladies. So they were going for a three-peat, which is not easy. But this year it's very special. They managed, I believe, to be the only team that would consistently be able to put on 22 players onto the park. They had a great team spirit, a very good coach in Cyril Collier, well led by Ashley Ulatupu, who created a culture second to none, I believe. And I was following this result, of course, in Australia. And when it got to 29-3 at halftime, I said to my wife, Susan, these players can now just relax in the second half and enjoy being in each other's company, right, without the pressure of having to fight to the final whistle. And as it was, they did run out good winners, 48-3 over Motory. Congratulations to the Marist ladies. Their trophy stays in the club room.
Yeah, and have to say congratulations to Motory because, that as a club, we had them on the show earlier and, they consistently able to get a team together in senior men's first division, but also the women's game's obviously growing, and to get into the final, just fantastic for them. Yeah,
they came home in a hiss and a roar in the last 4 weeks to make the final. They defeated Kahurangi a couple of times, made the final, and congratulations to them, as you say, for making the final.
Yeah. Senior Men Division 2, also the finals with the weekend just gone. So how did that end up, Les?
Stephen can talk about the Nelson Bays final because you were there, mate.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, Stoke Wanderers. I was talking to young Murray Malone, and he was telling me it's the biggest crowd he's seen at the Stoke Ground for many, many years. And it was definitely chocker. A really well contested game, some great skill at Div 2, some sizable athletes too, I must add. But Wanderers took it out, which is good to see. Stoke crowd were a little bit disappointed, but everybody was appreciative of a great game of footy. Yeah,
and you'd have to say a great win by Wanderers because it was all against them, wasn't it? That Stoke crowd. And also in previous years, the Stoke team have also come out on top and in most things. So to do it with the wins against them, they'd be pretty wrapped with that.
Yeah, to come to Green Meadows and get that win.
Yeah, I believe in the previous game in the round, Stoke had won by 2 points. So they were very well balanced teams. And yeah, like I say, great to see Wanderers come away with the win.
Gives some momentum to the Wanderers' colours for future seasons, doesn't it?
It does.
Marlborough final, and Renwick 19 beat Waitangi 11. Quite close, it seems like, at Renwick Domain. Any feedback from our Marlborough cousins?
Yes, absolutely. So, this was 1v2. So the top two sides doing it on the park. And, Renwick were the winners on the day by 19 points to 11. And again, a keenly fought contest between two very good clubs in front of passionate community crowds.
Yeah. So, once again, I believe the crowd was another large size, which is great to see. Community rugby's live and well with good community support.
I kind of had to explain to my partner that it's now mid-July and senior rugby comes to an end. And she said, well, what do they do now? So what do they do now? Has there been any thought about, obviously the guys that get picked and representative, and there are a variety of representative teams that they can play for. But, Div 2 guys that like a kick around on a Saturday. Has there been any thought process about the second part of the season?
Well, there is a town country game amongst the Division 2, Nelson Bay's Division 2. And we were talking to the Marlborough Council of Delegates, and they're very keen to have that town country concept over there, and then the teams winning. So that adds a couple of weekends to Div 2 footy, the social rugby players. And then it's not far away and touch rugby starts. So
yeah, true.
Yeah. Enough to keep them busy, I think, Steve.
Yeah, and attending the Mako games and giving their vocal support to their local representatives.
Yeah.
So at a Div 1 level, they named a Tasman development team, which will play some representative fixtures, and that's your backup to the Mako squad, and clubland players, very good clubland players, getting that opportunity at rep footy as well.
Let's turn our attention to internationals, and New Zealand under 20 beat Ireland 38-28. That was for third spot. Lowe, Grant and Lee starting.
Yeah, so New Zealand hasn't finished third in the under 20s for quite some time. This is the best result. So local players. So Matt Lowe from Nelson, Cooper Grant from Marist, and Johnny Lee, who's in the Mako squad. They started and they got a terrific win, and I'm proud for them. I really am.
Yeah.
We also had a couple of Tasman men in the team management side of things.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Luca Roden and Richie Marsden, the physio. Yeah, really, they had a great time. I saw Luca in the office, and he said it was just a great tour. You would imagine going to South Africa.
I know, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
4 weeks.
And, that competition, it's never been one-sided, has it, for quite a few years? It's not like the All Blacks just are guaranteed to win. South Africa have always been really, really strong. England have been really strong. France got into the final. England did it again, so a big boost for them. And, geez, that Ireland game wouldn't have been, they would have been thinking, geez, that's going to be a tough game. But obviously did it well. Yeah.
No, it was pleasing to watch, and great to see our three young men running around. This Johnny Lee's an interesting prospect. He's a number 8 who plays very hard, gets off the ground quickly, gets back to the breakdown. He's a lovely prospect for Tasman to have in their ranks.
So the All Blacks took on Fiji, and what were your thoughts on the game?
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, no, look, it was great. All the debutants did extremely well,
didn't they?
Yeah, I think Noah Holtham did very, very well. I also had an interest in Leo Tossi, as he was in Southland previously as a big 8, and Southland turned him into a prop, and then he got the Hurricanes, and then all of a sudden he's an All Black. So once again, a great success story for an athlete who took some good coaching advice and changed his game, and look where he's got. But yeah, good to see Ethan back on the park and come off without an injury. That was
yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and he played very well. He'd be a pest to play against. He just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
So I kept my eye on him throughout the game. This is his first 80 minutes in quite some time. So he was a little bit puffed by the 70-minute mark, but kept going. and he's really good at cleaning out rucks, isn't he? And then he showed some deft soft skills with passing as well. So yeah, it was a good performance from him. So he's put his hand up as a contender for the 7th spot for the
Well,
Olympics.
it was interesting. I heard an interview with Murray Mixted, and he was talking about the fact that your loosies, especially your number 6, has to be quite tall now. And I don't know why, whether that's a line option. And in fact, interesting that they picked Blackadder at 7, because often we see him at 6, or sometimes he's played at 8. I've always thought that Artie would be a better number 7 than an 8, but I saw a leg drive recently, and he took about 4 players with him. So okay, I bite my tongue on that one, but yeah. And then they just started talking about that role at number 7 and what type of player that you need: someone that can roam, someone that can win the ball, but also can pass the ball, and it's quite versatile. And of course, something that Richie McCaw always had was a big engine, and there's no doubt that that capacity with Blackadder, he's got that. So when they were starting talking about the new squad, all of a sudden that becomes very interesting, doesn't it? Because he did play well. Yes, it was Fiji. You don't have that there. And they talked about, sorry, who was the number 6 in the England game? Finau. So Mixted talked about size. That's one of the reasons. And yes, he needs a bit more mungle, but that will come. But then he said, well, perhaps an option is Papa Ili at number 6 and Blackadder at 7.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Razor picked him at 7. They're recognising that. So
no, it was a good call, and he played very well. The next test team gets selected to play Argentina on August 10, and whether or not there are great changes from the England side remains to be seen, but 6 would be an interesting area for them. 6 and 7, as we've discussed. And also I thought Matty Proctor really played beautifully at 13. Quality ball from inside and from Anton and then Brown too, by the way. But that's midfield pairing puts pressure on Barrett and Ione.
Really,
so that's good.
Really impressed, actually, as you pointed out, with the newbies coming on. But the lock from Auckland, I'm hopeless with name.
Sam Derry.
Yep.
Sam Derry, didn't he play well?
Yeah,
and he looked like that lock forward that we've been looking for.
Yeah, big international lock.
Yeah. Again, size.
Yeah.
Of course, no, Hotham comes on, and unlike his start with the Crusaders, which was a little bit shaky, and then grew into the season, right off the bat, just showed his class, didn't he?
Yeah, I think working in that environment's definitely put a bit of polish on him, and he came in with a new level of confidence, and definitely performed well.
So there's a dilemma, isn't it? Because TJ's back. What do you do with Christie? The young fellow from Waikato has played well.
I thought Roundup played very well to start that game. The concussion gave Hotham his chance, gave Noah his chance, but both those halfbacks went very, very well on the weekend. What I like about both of them is that they're prepared to have a snipe from the base of the ruck or the scrum, and that just changes things up. But I think that 4 quality halfbacks gives Razor a great choice.
Well, basically we've got 5, haven't we? Because
Roygard
is
injured.
Yes.
Man, life.
So last year we were going, how do we replace Aaron Smith? Now we're talking about 5 halfbacks.
Not to mention the young fella from the Highlanders. He's a good player too. So we're blessed in that area. Then, of course, they were talking about the mix with Barrett fullback and Damien McKenzie, and then Stephen Erifotta at number 15, and then Marshall pipes up and goes, "Oh yeah, Will Jordan's coming back."
Yeah.
So what do you do there? And my first thought is perhaps Stephen will be dropped, and they'll keep Will Jordan at 15, Barrett on the bench as an option for both. But then they're talking about putting Will Jordan on the wing.
Yes, they are. That was John Kerwin, wasn't it, on the breakdown?
Well, he was more 15, but it was Goldie that was talking about a wing.
All right. Anyway, look,
it's going to be interesting.
It's just depth.
I think from that game, Razor's already shown he's there to build depth, and he's there to build competition for positions, and both are healthy.
Yeah.
I think there'd be quite a positive vibe over his first 2 tests. We're yet to play the big boys, But
Well, England are big boys, and they have managed to get 2 wins. So,
yeah,
but yes, it's South
Yeah.
Africa coming up, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and Fiji, they're very competitive, big, strong athletes, and they held them very well. So,
Not
that's
to
all
mention that 10th of August, they take on Argentina, who beat France
possible.
at
Yep.
home.
Yes, I was a bit naughty there, wasn't I? Bypassing them straight into the South African game. So yeah, first things first.
That's
Two
right.
tests against Argentina.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Going to be really interesting with the mix that he comes up with. You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, and it's our pleasure to welcome Steve Mitchell, the new CEO for the Tasman Rugby Union. And let's start with the early years, Steve. So you have a passion for boxing and also the Rangers rugby club.
The mighty orange and black Upper Mootsman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So tell us about what took you down both those paths, I guess.
Oh well, yeah, I was an amateur boxer from 14 and had my last fight at about 25, working in Rackley's gym, and just loved the sport, loved the individual focus, but also loved the fitness and also being able to defend yourself was always a skill I'd wanted to have on board.
Yes,
You know, yeah, I grew up in a bit of a rough neighbourhood with a few siblings who probably said too much at certain times. So, yeah, well, yeah.
Goading each other.
Well, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was yeah. And I'd always watched in the days of the 70s. You know, Marvelous Marvin Hagler's probably my favourite fighter, and then you got Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Roberto Fists of Stone Durant, Sugar Ray Leonard, and you know that was after Ali and Fraser and
I know they were
Gorman.
They were just amazing years, weren't they?
Oh, they were. They were, yeah, great years for boxing. So yeah, that's where my passion started there. With rugby, I've got 3 boys. They're all bigger and better looking than I am. And at 5 years old, off we went down to the local rugby club with my eldest and first year assistant coach, second year coach, third year JAB delegate, and then on it goes. And then I become the president of Rangers Rugby Club. But yeah, I coached my boys from 5 years old through to 16 years old. And then by then I was president of the club and also coached the seniors. So yeah, so just kids and sport really. And I have a personal liking for combat sport.
Right.
And you put rugby in that mix.
Yeah, I definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. So no, but it's sport's been really good to me. I've been a lucky man. Just yeah. But that's what happens if you commit, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your involvement in your local township, can I call it?
Yes.
Of Upper Mootery got you involved in the project to build the Upper Mootery Community Centre. And that got completed in 2005. And I know you're a big driver of that. So what was your role in making it happen?
Oh, as the president of Rangers Rugby Club, we did a strategic plan with the help of Sport Tasman back in the day. And it identified a lack of facilities was our major hurdle to development. And so then we started come across the concept of Sportsville. So started talking to the right people. In those days, Tasman District Council would fund 80% of capital build if you had good community support. So we pulled on some locals, a man by the name of Phil Hyatt, Tim Finn from Udall Vineyards, some men of calibre that had standing in the community. And then we went and sort of rallied around and just when we first went to the council with a proposal, we had 32 potential user groups that were interested in utilising this combined facility. So then Phil Hyatt chaired the board to actually drive the project, and it took, I think it was 5 years from initial discussions through to the opening of the building. And then I took on the chairmanship of the operational committee, if you like, and chaired it for, I think it was something like 7 years until it was sustainable and financially sound. And here it is 20 years on, and it's still delivering to the community, still got a wide range of activities. The model pays for a facility manager, professional bar and kitchen staff, and an activities coordinator.
Yeah.
And then it generates a surplus every year, which gets invested back into further community provision. It's a great model. I'm very, very proud of Mootery Hills.
I remember the old community hall before it was built, the old community hall and the tennis court.
So
that
that
was about it.
That was
a massive paddock out the back.
That was the land area, wasn't it? That someone had a vision for. It just strikes me then you say from discussion to open 5 years. I don't think anything can take that quickly anymore.
Well, we had Rangers 50th Jubilee was 20th of January 2005. And so that was the goal.
Right.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to do any major project, to have a timeline established from square, a finished date, and then work your way back to what needs to happen. But yeah, it was a great project.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sports Tasman, so obviously that was probably a good background to segue into your role as at Sport Tasman as a senior advisor for community sport.
Yeah, I started off just being like a club development officer, and then we produced a whole lot of resources, everything from how to run a club committee to volunteer recruitment to funding and sponsorship. And then the role sort of grew and grew and grew. And then, a couple of the projects we got involved with were more around permanent facility development. I was involved in the hockey softball pavilion, which was another great project.
Isn't it? Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, well, both those facilities cater for up to international standard, and to have that in our own backyard is really brilliant. And to get, you had the girls with the hockey sticks and the boys with their softball bats, and getting to work collaboratively was challenging at times.
Yeah.
But you can sell a big picture, and when they could see the merit and the reasoning and also the potential, everyone got on the same page pretty quickly.
And look at the facility today. It's just fantastic, isn't it?
Oh,
and you can play hockey all weathers right throughout the week. You don't have to, it's not just about always on a Saturday. Interesting that, with rugby and your facility at Tahuna, we interviewed Tahuna Football Club on the football show, and they talked about that future development. And of course, FC Nelson have been working with Nelson Rugby Club. Unfortunately, didn't go through with an Astro turf, but they got bigger plans for some combined club rooms in Neil Park area.
Right.
So, some big visions, but it's about the sports coming together, very much like the concept that you're talking about.
I think funders have identified that they're a bit loath to be funding a standalone code, and where you can work collaboratively, and what do they say, an economy of scale across the provision of services through multi-use makes good sense, and it's a better spend for funders. So after Mootry Hills, Tasman took off, and there was one in Renwick, there's one in Endeavour Park and Picton, Murchison, of course, and then the last job I did for Sport Tasman was a feasibility study on Golden Bay, which is now established and operating well.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, fantastic. They're going great guns over there in Golden Bay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's going really well.
I'm actually heading over there this weekend for Tarkika's 60th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. I've been invited to go over there and have a beer with Duncan.
Yeah,
and
Duncan
Anthony.
down, mate.
Have a beer with Duncan.
Have a beer with Duncan.
Well,
I went to the 50th, so that's
oh, there you go.
that's on a good feed. Great night.
I hope you've made some provision to some recovery time and the long trip back over the hill.
Yeah,
Stay overnight.
yeah. I've been asked to stay up.
In 2014, you joined the Tasman Rugby Union, where you worked for 6 years. And that was the Mako's first year in the NBC Premier Division.
Correct.
And your time, including putting on the 2018 All Blacks Test, just a small task, and the 2019 NBC Premiership title win at Trafalgar Park.
Yeah, look, that was
tell us about those memories.
Well, it was a great collaboration between staff. I think, all of us worked our backsides off to get it underway. But that All Black Test was amazing. 21,404 attendees, 130 security guards, 180 volunteers, probably 6 months of our lives, really.
Tony Lewis talked about, he said, I had two soldiers. You were one of them. Who was the other soldier?
Oh, I
that
don't know.
was you.
I think it was Les.
So there you go.
Yeah,
A well-drilled machine.
It was great, and you had a big task because the operations role. I think New Zealand. Tony says this. New Zealand Rugby gave Stephen a manual this, that, and he reduced it to something more predictable.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And not me either. Yeah,
You had volunteers.
You find good people with skill set that you haven't got, and you empower them to achieve. And actually, it was Shannon Cassidy put that manual together. On loan from Gibbons Construction.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then I ran into Jane Miles the other day.
Yeah.
He ended up.
Oh, wow, yeah.
She's a great.
She's a great
athlete.
trooper, eh?
Yeah.
So as you say, good people doing something great.
And once again, a combined vision and a timeline.
Yes.
Yeah. We had a few incidents. We had 3 forklifts on site, and some young fella thought it was a good idea to put sand in the fuel one night.
Right.
And so there was all sorts of little dramas that came along during the process. But it was an amazing thing to be involved in. On the night, I had my cell phone, I had an earpiece, and I had a walkie-talkie, and they were just going off all night. Can I tell a funny story? there was a lady sitting under the coach's box with a hot chocolate, got a little bit excited and threw a hot chocolate into the air, and it went all over the window of the coach's box. So it came down through the mic. Shag can't see the game. It's so, and he had his own security, and these two big lads came down and they were saying, what are we going to do? What are we? So we ran down to the cleaning cupboard and we taped two brooms together and put it and so I'm standing on the handrail being held up by these two big security guards trying to wipe this window 20 feet up in the air.
And you were just smearing it worse.
Yeah, that's what come down the mic. Tell the cleaner he's making it worse. I said, what? So I folded up the brooms and I went back to my other job. Well, you can look through your chocolate. Yeah, but no, that was a great day, and the feedback from the punters that attended the game, I mean, they could hear the line-out calls. They were that close.
Yeah,
it was just amazing.
Yeah, you're right there. I was on the, you're practically like you're on the sideline.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and the players warming up, they were right there, right beside you.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, great feedback.
Players that you enjoyed being around the most?
Oh, look, coming from my background, I like the big boppers. I like the big warriors. That just don't say die. Shane Christie stands out for me. He was a soldier right true and true, extremely tough man, uncompromising, very, very accurate in his detail, and demanded from his soldiers the same level of commitment. I think when him and Goody were running the team, it was a very, very special team. You had two local lads who'd worked their way not only to Mako, but to captain to the Mako, to then become coaches. And there was I believe, a special kinship through those years.
Yeah.
Andrew Goody, smart, intelligent, sharp, big Liam Squire, what a brute. He was a great man to watch play. He
could run fast too, when he did the breakaways.
Oh, when he first made the All Blacks, he came down to Trafalgar Park to do his training, and I had a look at his running schedule, and no wonder he could move. Yeah, but then there's other characters. Siwa Hela Nuka.
Yes,
he was a great character.
You had a good relationship with Tim Perry.
Yeah, your big Tim. Yeah, big brute of a man. Let's keep telling him, don't be lippy, boy. I'll knock you out. But chances are you wouldn't beat him. 6'4", 127 kilo with attitude and an attitude. He was a funny man. He actually, I've got a Harley, and he said to me when he made the All Blacks, he went out and bought himself a big 6-meter Stavy craft. And he says to me, I pulled up on my Harley one day, so I want to take your bike for a ride. He was in Randalls and everything, and he wanted to ride it around Trafalgar Park. I said, sure, mate, but if you crash it, the boat's mine. And he agreed. But he didn't crash it, but he definitely earned the big Harley smile when he came back off it.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah.
So in 2020, you're appointed CEO of Rugby Southland.
Yep.
And you and Pam go to the deep south.
Yes.
So how was the cultural shock?
Oh, look, first of all, I'll go to the decision. So we'd sort of achieved all our goals in Tasman, and we'd been through empty nest, and Pammy brought a bus and I brought a Harley. So we spent a couple of 3 years travelling the top of the south on both vehicles, having a ball. And then once we'd run the premiership, just looking for a new challenge, and I've always wanted to lead an organisation, and the opportunity wasn't available here. So we started looking around, and Southland, there was probably 3 provincial unions up, but Southland appealed to me for a number of reasons. Honest people, country based, if you like, which is me, and also motorbikes and classic cars and fishing, hunting, and that side of life. So it took a little bit of convincing for Pam, but anyway, off we went, and I went down there first. I was down there for 10 months on my own until Pam finally made it down, and we just sort of caught up when we could. But going down there, the people had warned me. They were blunt and honest, and I said, well, that's fine because I can shoot straight back, so that was laid out on the table from square. Southland was struggling both financially and organisationally, so there was scope to undertake change, and the community were looking for change. Lester Rutledge become a real close comrade and a great leader. He's the Komatua down in that district, and he's got wisdom, and he's also very, very club orientated and locally orientated.
Geez, there's a name from the past. I haven't heard that name for quite a few years.
Oh, big Lester,
Yeah.
Well, he's the life member, and you managed to get the life members galvanised, didn't you? Or
Yeah.
they were galvanised, and you got them
Yeah, you've
more engaged.
Yeah, yeah. Look, Lester came to me and I challenged him. I said, look, if you think one man new to town can change it on his own, you're sadly mistaken. And a few other guys, I went and met with his group and said, you'll pitch in and help. And Lester said, what do you need? And I said, I'd love you to be president. And he said, what does that entail? So I gave him some contacts to discuss it. And then anyway, he did. And straight away, we got some mana back into the organisation just by having him sitting at the helm. And yeah, he was a great mentor and a great support for me down there. Club rugby down there is really strong. They've probably got 5 men's divisions. Yeah, I won't say too much about the difference in Tasman versus Southland, but they're very, very passionate. They're used to playing in atrocious conditions, and they don't mind it. They love it when people win, and Northlanders have to come down and face that Southland weather. The facilities down there were a little bit unloved, but they were great facilities to be hosting games. So yeah, no, it was a huge learning curve, a huge challenge, but definitely beneficial for both myself and Pam.
That's awesome, mate. So there are some great brand similarities between the Stags and the Mako, I think. Both are loved by their fan base. So did you subconsciously tap into some of the things you learned and did at the Mako and help introduce that into the culture down there?
Yeah, look, we certainly there was. I mean, Tasman, when by the time we left, was basically just about 100% professional. Not necessarily pay wise, but just the way they operated. Everything was done with a clear focus and a clear outcome determined. And so we started to bring that into Southland. I think because when I got there, they'd won 1 game in 7 years. So recruitment for them was extremely challenging. And they would, for want of a better word, they were sort of getting players that didn't have the right attitudes, and that was showing in all their aspects. So that was the first thing, actually putting some clear demands and expectations around the player base, but also lifting the level of support that we put out, not only to the top level players, but the whole community. There was a young lad down there called Scotty Eade, and he'd been the 10 for the Stags for quite some time, and he'd just recently retired. So we brought him into the academy mix because he was a Pied Piper, great rapport with the kids, a bit like Chris Goodman when he would work for the Tasman Academy. And that made an immediate difference. And then once we moved him from teenage RDO to academy manager, we brought on Marty McKenzie as an RDO. And then we put Marty and Scotty alongside Southland boards. And Peter Skelt, the master in charge down there, runs a great program. But these 2 young professional players who had just retired coming into their mix put another level of, probably modernised the game. And then with Southland boys winning their first 15 competition, that was huge. And that just showed our investment into the community game was paying dividends. I remember when I first got to the Mako, our junior RDOs were Lester Nuku and Quinny Strange, and the buy-in they got from the kids and the buy-in the community got, or the buy-in the community had for Tasman Mako and what we were delivering into the community had a great effect. And so that's possibly what I tried to mirror, was giving the right roles to the right people with the right motivators and supporting them. When I got there, they had 1 RDO. When I left, they had 5. And you had Josh Bicuis, the big 6'9" lock, who was captain of the Stags. You had David Hall, or Crazy Hall as they call him, 115 games for the Stags as a hooker. You had Scotty, you had Marty, and we also had a young lady, Georgia Bewley, who's just so passionate about the women's game. So our delivery into the community was through the roof, and it certainly paid dividends.
Well, it has to be said, Stephen, as an outsider looking in on Southland Rugby, that in your 4 years, you certainly left the place better than when you found it.
Yeah, well, that was the plan. And I said to the board when I first got there, 3 to 5 minimum, 5 to 7 max. I'll put in the systems, I'll fill it full of the right people, but I am going home. And when I left, there was a little bit of because there's some big projects going on down there, and they were a little bit reluctant to see me go. But the feedback came, well, that's what he said, and he stuck to his word, and he's achieved his goals. So yeah, like I say, it was a great opportunity, and you're just glad the plan came together.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now back at the TRU.
Yes.
So interesting, isn't it? Because you go from those days with the TRU that we're building to where you left them.
Yes.
You go down to Southland, and put the building blocks in place, and then you come back to the TRU. So, what have you walked into? What's your impression?
Yeah, look, there's certainly some work to be done in some certain areas. I don't think anyone will deny that, going from first to, where we go, 10th, was it? And then 8th, I believe.
Yes.
But then again, we also lost 7 All Blacks out of that squad.
Yeah.
And what other NPC side can say they created 7 All Blacks over a period of time, and then that's still happening.
Just as an aside, it's now 12 All Blacks since 2016.
Well, that's
Amazing.
That
And
is
it
amazing.
a lot of depth to take out of a provincial.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And so there's always going to be falters when you lose that amount and that caliber of player. And I think the sponsorship and funding, things are a bit tough out there at the moment. So there's plenty of work to do, but the bones are sound, and we've still got some really good people in the organisation. So I'm just looking forward to probably reshaping, revisiting, and driving change. And as Les brought up earlier, the synergy between Southland and Tasman is very, very strong. They've both got similar player bases. They've both got a huge catchment, great big geographical challenges. They're both not aligned with a super club in their district, so they stand on their own 2 feet. I think if Southland can continue to grow and I can help stop the fall, if you like, and reinvigorate Tasman, and we can work as sister ships, if you like, then I think that's beneficial. There's a real need for a sustainable, successful provincial union model throughout New Zealand rugby. And that's a challenge, I say.
I mean, we reached some pretty heady heights, didn't we, in those days? And as you say, everything's cyclical because player bases evolve and move on. And then you've got the community access. There's always that challenge between the balance of community and elite, isn't there? And, we all expect we want to win trophies, but on the other side of the coin, you've got the club saying, we need more support in club rugby, and that's a challenge. So, that's the challenge, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it is. But if you look at the overarching concept of a provincial union, and NZR will say this quite loudly, is that it's about community rugby first and foremost, and then aspirational pathways second. There's not a lot around high performance. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really a super rugby club's gig. So what we should be doing is providing opportunities for our player base to play at their highest possible level.
And if you get, and I spoke, sorry to bring the round ball game up, but I spoke to a president last week who had that same philosophy. Got a lot of challenges, big club, got a lot of community teams, all of that. So he's been concentrating just on building the amount of members and what they get out of it and all of those kind of things. But interestingly, now I've got 2 first division sides and knocking on the door of Southern League, which has organically evolved as opposed to bringing in players and trying to...
Yeah, look, bringing in players and paying them top money is not sustainable. To invest in your own community is your priority as a regional sports organisation. And if you do that right and you have the right people in the right roles, then they'll only ever improve. So that's definitely my philosophy, and I believe the new strategic plan by the board actually aligns the same thing. New Zealand rugby is challenging provincial unions. That's where they should be. And the accusation around overspend on the NPC is probably the biggest bugbear between the provincial unions and New Zealand rugby at the moment. So it certainly needs some sorting out.
So I am interested though in whether or not I understand clubland,
Yes.
and the community game,
Yes.
but I also understand the importance sometimes of being, or always of being, an aspirational unit.
Yes.
So I guess my question is it important to you as a leader for Tasman to be an aspirational unit?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if things go the way I foresee, Tasman will be back on top of the table pretty quickly, and it'll have a high percentage of local players. We'll have a depth chart down to under 14. We'll be identifying the kids with potential and those that with some work would show potential, and we'll just be investing very strongly back through the community game.
I admire that. I'm just looking at a team that was named
Yes.
right to play on Friday in a pre-season game for the Tasman Mako against Manawatu in Wellington, and there's a 26-man squad named, right? And there's a couple of interesting features of it. One, the bench for the backs includes Louis Chapman, Willie Havili, David Havili, and Levi Amua. So there's players.
Jeez, they can't even make the side.
There's players who've taken this aspirational approach through Tasman.
Correct.
And you know, we know they're going to be playing higher than the bench in due course. The other interesting
They hope.
yeah, the other interesting point is that of the 26, 25 have come through either local club rugby or are locals, and there's only the one player that's been brought in, you know, to fill a need, to fill a gap.
Yeah, look, I think that's a wonderful statistic, and I think that's what every provincial union should be heading for. Look, I don't dispute the need to bring in players where there's gaps.
No.
You know, I'd much rather they can come into our union and play club rugby and get known by the community before they represent, but also understand the challenges around, you know, that around that whole process.
Well, it was interesting because when the Mako first started out, there was a lot of local players, but you had players moving to the region because they weren't getting the opportunity, and it put them. Actually, they played really well, didn't they?
Yes, Sione Havili.
Yeah.
Finlay Christie filled the gap.
Christie, Andrew Makaleo.
Who was the guy from Australia on the wing? Beasley, was it Beasley?
That's early days, but Peter Beetham.
Yep.
Peter Beetham. He
Yeah.
was fantastic for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think what we're saying though is that there are less gaps that need
Well,
filling
if
by
you're
non-local.
Yeah, correct.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is awesome. If you know, like I say, if you invest and you develop your own local talent, then that requirement becomes less. Yeah.
Lastly, Stephen, just touching on senior level rugby here at Tasman.
Yes.
So you know, when you left, there were 10 clubs, and now there's 7. So how does Clubland here compare to Southland?
Look, Southland's got more divisions of senior rugby, and the social aspect of rugby down there is still alive and well. You know, with all due respect, you've still got the round fellas who are no longer elite athletes, still running around but enjoying their footy. I used to go out with Lester and Lex Chisholm to Gore, and we'd run a little match fit program out there for all us oldies, which was really good fun. And they'll still get out on the ground.
Are they playing Div 1?
No, it's about Div 4.
Okay,
but it's all social, and you know, to me, that's one of the hidden gems of rugby is the interaction between, you know, granddad and grandson at the same ground supporting the same team, and you know, just that whole community connect. That's rugby's known for it, and yeah, a rugby clubhouse is it's a special place to be, and that's still alive and well in Southland.
So in Southland, you've got much more divisions, more
Correct.
players, more teams. Here in Tasman, we've got 7 senior clubs, bit of pressure there, but senior B rugby still remains the lifeblood, as we've talked about with the finals and whatnot.
Yeah, well, the crowds at those 2 finals showed clearly that community rugby is still alive and well, and the passion that was shown around those grounds. You know, so it's still alive. So the 7 teams, you know, it's dropped from 12 from when I left 4 years ago, which is
12.
which is a little bit concerning. But then when I've met with some of the clubs that are considering next year, and it's got to be well planned, and there has to be some recruitment to bring club players in from outside just based on numbers. And that comes with costs and expectations and that on the clubs. But yeah, we've certainly got a plan to lift the numbers back up. I don't know if we'll quite make 12 in the next couple of years, but we're certainly.
Well, if you don't lose any of the 7 and you maybe add one, that would be a big start, wouldn't it?
Well, get rid of the buy round for a start.
Yes, but you know, dwelling on the social side, the Division 2, I know the Marist Div 2 guys just play for the love of the game. We've had a number of stalwarts come back to help out.
The
Division
Wobbers.
1 team.
Look at the Wobbers this year. It's fantastic rise.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity maybe in due course for a third layer, which would be presidents.
Well, once again, that's around the social aspect, and I believe there is a need and possibly an opportunity to look at establishing a 3rd division again.
Yeah.
even if it was a 4-team comp and they played every second week or something like that, just to get it off the ground
Yep.
and make it more about family social opportunities.
Yeah, there was a curtain raiser played at Trafalgar
Right.
Park between Nelson and Marist. Old golden oldies, and oh man, did they enjoy themselves?
Yeah.
They probably couldn't play every week, but
I think I was talking to Billy Havilli, David and Willie's dad, and he was playing in that. And he was still a little bit sore.
Yeah.
yeah, perhaps take the contact out of it by playing tag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, get touch to ground.
Yeah,
And then lay the ball back and go again.
Yeah,
And
But
just
they
make it
certainly
about
wanna run
natural.
around, don't they?
The running and the pass. It's the big hits that slow them up.
Yeah.
But then the ego kicks in. There's a boy out home, big
So
Silcock, Murray
Oh,
Silcock.
Murray Silcock.
Murray
Yes.
Silcock.
Well, actually, I know Murray very well.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Samara's dad.
Yes. So his daughter's she's 50 games for the Mako.
Yes,
Woman,
he
isn't
is.
she?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's a local legend out in Upper Mootry. He was still playing at 48, 49 years old. And I said to him the other day, and he's got to be 60 something. And I said, "You're not playing this year, Murray." He says, "Well, they don't want me." It wasn't his choice. They don't want me. And I've seen him injure his own players by running into the back of them all, elbows flying. And you put him in a golden oldies game, and you just got to have a leash on the kid.
Well, he's still running around on the farm paddock, throwing around hay bales.
Yeah.
He's
a fit-
still quite active.
yeah, big fit fella.
Steve, I'm pleased to hear that you've got a plan, around Div 1, but
Yep.
more importantly that, you would like to expand the base,
Yes.
because that's what the game needs. So been really nice response to that little question. Thank you.
Oh no, so the whole thing's about the community, Les. It's what regional sport's about. It's about the community and the family, if you like. And rugby is a family. You do get your occasional, cheeky uncle or aggressive aunt, but but we've just got to deal with them all through policy and procedure. And like I say, give everybody the opportunity to be involved at what level they desire.
Fantastic. Hey, Steve, thank you very much for coming in. It's fantastic. It's a great start to us kicking off the Mako season.
Yeah.
And, we're really looking forward to that. It's been a good season this season, hasn't it?
Yes.
With the local rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
We only had, we only had 4 forfeits.
Yeah.
Which, when with the number of players in the region trying to field 7 teams,
Yep.
I thought that was great. Motory really worked hard at
Yes.
maintaining their presence throughout the season, and the games are good.
And the good
rugby
And the
was
good thing too is everyone we've spoken to has a passion about looking at ways of how to increase the player base, ideas about how we can keep them in the clubs, and that's what you want. You want passions on both sides of the hill, don't you? And
Correct.
and people being really involved in their local club, and it's just trying to glue that together and grow it, isn't it, Steve? So that's the challenge.
And
Yeah.
I believe looking at some of the stats I was looking at, minimal red cards this year too, which is always good to see.
Geez, how's that?
Everyone behave.
Yeah, I did.
Fantastic. Oh, look, as I said, great to have you in. Great to have you at the helm, and look forward to getting through this season. But really, I guess this season's all about doing a bit of research, finding out what needs to be done, and then forming a plan to take it through the next few years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched the training yesterday, I think, with the Mako team, and pretty excited by the team and the way they're training at the moment. So very excited by the season.
Remiss of us not to mention the FVC.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did follow a couple of the women's games earlier in the year, and I had Latoya highlight to me the players that she's got on her radar. She's doing a good job. We're working quite closely with Mata too. They were up here last weekend, and they're up here again fairly soon. So they're looking to support their feeder unions, for want of a better word.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah, so that's another relationship that'll be extremely positive. The CE down there, Sarah Munro, she's brilliant to work with and very, very supportive of the
Geez,
feeder
haven't you got some IP with Latoya with her
Oh,
campaign with England? The campaign she's been on. So
yeah, completely. Yeah,
A lovely lady.
fantastic. Yeah,
Really nice
just
presence
fantastic.
around the office.
Yeah,
yes. So no, it's all looking positive.
great.
Like you say, this year's a little bit of review. At the end of the season, we'll reflect, and then going into the next year, we'll adjust.
Yeah,
That's the plan.
fantastic.
Review, reflect, and adjust. I like it.
That's the way it goes.
That's the one.
Great to have you back, Les.
Thank you. Awesome to be back in sunny Nelson. You couldn't ask for a better town to live in, could you?
Upper Mootry.
Okay, except
Upper
same
Mootry.
area.
Yeah.
And look forward to seeing some of the Mako players come in and those behind the team going forward. So
Yeah, we'll have lots of Mako interviews coming up for the duration of the campaign. So looking forward to that.
Excellent.
My thanks to the Turf Hotel for their support stand and the team. You can catch this podcast and others on talknelson.co.nz, also our social media channels, Facebook and Instagram, and on Spotify, MBS Talk Nelson. That's it for the Mako Rugby Roundup. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.